What's important for me is the story. How do I get the story out to people?
Maybe we need an independent dance label. We can produce it, we can light the show, we make the music.
How do we bring the story to people? Being brave and finding unique spaces. I can do trap build anywhere. That was always the point.
The performances and all of that stuff is the bonus. You know, what is really important is this community, this brotherhood.
Just,
So I look at,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll ask
Okay,
questions.
awesome.
My name's Ivan Michael Blackstock. I'm an artist and creative director. If I kind of close my eyes and think, I've been dancing from the beginning of time, you know? Michael Jackson, Bobby Brown, MC Hammer. And then I was roughly about 10 years old. And there was a group back in the day, I just thought they were the coolest thing. You know, all black boys, and they just had like this cool style, and like one guy had an eye patch. Anyways, I went to their concert in London, and I looked on stage, just like, no way, that's my cousin Victoria dancing behind them. So I would say that was the moment where I want to do that. Dance with Boy Blue for a little bit, dance with Flawless for a little bit. I would say within my hip hop journey, by the time I hit about 18, 19, that's when I felt like I needed to build my own collective. And that was Bird Gang Dance Company with Simeon Saye. And then later on, Kendra Horsburgh and Aqueli Roach kind of joined the company, and we became the main founders of Bird Gang. You know, my first big job, I think, was 19. And then pretty much soon after that, it was like things for Adidas, Reebok.
In 2015, I took a new journey in my creative practice. Kind of the stories I wanted to tell. During that time, I was also dealing with my mental health. I was seeing a lot of like collectives growing, you know, mainly to do with like non-binary groups and women. And especially in London, there was like, you know, rife with all these amazing groups, but there was like, where's the groups for men? Where do I go? And maybe at the time I was too scared to seek therapy. So I just gathered a group of men, some friends together. It just started off with us, well, with myself actually, being very vulnerable and open, and opening that space for other men to share how they feel, what do they want to aspire to. I didn't realize how maybe traumatic to a certain extent certain parts of my childhood was until I spoke about it, but I also realized how we all shared the same narrative somewhat. So then after a while, it was just like, naturally people started rapping, people were freestyling, as we're all creatives anyway, and some people were not really from the dance community, but I said, you know what, just chill in the space. And it's like, yeah, you know, you're kind of quiet, you know, how do you feel like you want to be involved? I was like, you know, I feel like I want to write some bars, but, you know, I don't really have some confidence, I was like, okay, you free, go over there, so you have someone and some support. And then some of them have become full-on rappers now, you know. And the company since 2015 has, I'll say, blossomed to about 30 of us. Now, you know, we've won an Olivier Award, you know, beating the Royal Ballet is kind of crazy when I really sit down and think about it. So we're here at Sadler's Wells. It's been a crazy week. We've got two of the guys back there that's been the original cast since 2015. They're kind of like my soldiers. So yeah, right now we're just a bit chilling, and then yeah, we can kind of get deeper into it and share a little bit more. There's a bigger conversation that needs to happen, and I feel people outside of dance don't really respect dance as much. When I've worked with a lot of music artists or even people in fashion, it's like, you know, with dance, we're doing the budgeting, we're lighting the show, we're doing everything. I don't really see that much from the music world. I've been associate in a few places, resident in a few places. I had a studio in East London. So yeah, no, when I'm putting this work together, my studio is this. This is the studio. The work happens inside. There's a lot of like banter, laughter, but I think, you know, sometimes it can be like scary for me. You've kind of seen it in rehearsals where we're kind of learning the moves, figuring it out. But every time I think we've performed on stage, it's kind of this euphoric experience, but this also this shedding of skin. Someone said something really interesting to me. and I really respect them for saying that, is why is there no women in Trap Lord? I said, well, it's about masculinity. And he said, well, we all share masculinity, Ivan. I was like, oh. That really resonated with me. And since 2022, I've been looking at how we can tell the stories through different perspectives. And, you know, so what I do like to do is sometimes change the roles on who is telling the story or who's kind of the main protagonist. I think you see Trap Lord, and at times we're showing ideas of ultra violence, very inspired by Clockwork Orange, you know, and this maybe stereotypical idea, you know, and that was it was deliberate and intentional. But when you watch it and the layers start to peel off, you see something else. All of the numbers that we do, I've kind of taken a leaf out of how music artists put set lists together for shows. So actually it's done by track, how I've made the show. So each show we do, sometimes I change the set list so the piece is different. We can create a 15-minute show, we can create an hour show, 75-minute show. It's always been about give the audience what they want. They want to be wowed. They want to go on a journey, connect to themselves, be reminded of beauty, of pain. Because I've had people like, what's the story, da 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 da. I was like, did you feel something? I was like, yeah, but I didn't understand it. That's the whole point. I'd prefer you to walk out of Trap Lord and be like, yo, I felt this thing, you know, I felt when, you know, I was a child and I was doing that thing. Instead of, I got it, but I didn't feel it. And I think we've forgotten how to stretch our mind, stretch our soul, stretch our hearts, and look at symbolism. I feel like when you kind of zoom out and look at it, it's like, oh, it's all kind of connected to these same stories. So I think that's what I try to get to. And I think when you lean into that, there's a collective consciousness that we kind of can share. So actually, if you can tap into the collective consciousness, you realize you're not even, you never reinvented the wheel. The wheel is there, you just jump on the ride. Trap Lord reminds me how I'm loved, because right now this climate's tough and we need more love, you know, but we also need to be confronted and not shy away from the real, what's happening, that grit, this dark maybe. Through Trap Lord, some of these young men and women now has able to confront certain maybe traumatic moments in their childhood. You know, I've nearly been stabbed. Some members of Trap Lords, you know, their family members been murdered. You know, some people have been through sexual abuse. So, you know, sometimes those moments hit you, but you can always like drop a WhatsApp, drop a call, come to a session. And you might not even be in the show, but you know, like I can just chill here and, you know, there's a safe space. There has to be a level of authenticity, because we're speaking about the stories from the street. You know, it's good to crack open the door for people to see another side. The way I made Trap Lord, it wasn't like you follow this protagonist. We want the audience just to feel something.